Hello again, Ryan.
Hey, Kelly. Thank you for having me once again.
Thank you for joining today. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. I'm just sharing this to the other account.
Okay.
Sweet. Actually, I don't know if that went through. I don't know how that worked.
Eh,
Anyways,
Good evening, good day to everyone. Thank you for joining the second episode with Ryan Alexander. Share the live, please, and get your pen and paper as well. Let's talk.
cool.
All right, for those of you who are just joining today, we would be discussing EMF, electromotive force, with Ryan Alexander. And then, if you were here during our previous sit down or discussion, I'm very sure it was very educative. People learned a lot. I have my DM buzzing. So we said, okay, let's bring back something new. That also has a lot to do with our health. So today we would be discussing EMF. I'll try as much as possible to create time for questioning. So you can send in your question or send in your request where you get to ask Ryan whatever question you have around the topic. So I think we might just get to it. Ryan, do you want to introduce yourself to the people?
Yep. And the good news is, by the way, on this topic, it's a lot less complicated than the health talk that we had last time. We went on for 2 hours, and it was a pretty good overview. But man, we could go on for 25 hours easily on all the nutritional intricacies and everything, all the essential nutrients. We could talk for hours and hours about them. But this is very straightforward. So for me, I got into this business kind of by accident, working with people. Never really intended to. I started off years and years ago. We had a pet business. This was the first time that we learned about nutritional supplementation for animals. Basically, the short story is if you give your animals the food that is designed for them, that is how they're optimally healthy. If you don't give them those food, you're going to have problems. As an animal seller and breeder, we learned this, but like most people in the animal businesses, we did not apply this to our own health. Then I worked at a gym for 4 years. Again, accidental. They kind of line up to where I ended up, but I didn't mean to. But in the gym, I learned, a lot about what isn't relevant for health. Basically, all the different theories about health in the gym, most of them are false. Most of them have nothing to do with health. Fitness has nothing to do with health, basically. So those two. And then I also worked in research. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but since I am not a licensed medical practitioner and I don't dress like a professional practitioner, this was, I do have a little bit of credentials here. I was trained formally at the University of Sydney in the geophysics department with the Ocean Technology Group. A bit of a mouthful there, but I was trained very specifically on how to conduct scientific experiments, how to design scientific experiments and run them, as well as how to read and interpret primary scientific data. And that all sounds complicated, and I try not to even mention that because it doesn't really matter. The point in a lot of this is that, I like to put it that any idiot can learn how to heal themselves. It doesn't take a medical degree to learn what's wrong with your body and to fix it. It's a very straightforward process. And that's basically my introduction. Before I got into the health business, I've been in the health business now. This is my 7th year dealing with human beings, mostly with nutrition. But again, by accident, I also got into the anti-radiation business, and it's a separate business. So already, everything that we talked about last time, all the nutrition stuff, it's mostly not taken seriously by the medical community. If you go and ask your doctor will tell you you just get everything you need from food, right? They don't take the vitamins and minerals seriously. They don't really take the idea that natural people out there in the wild did it better than us modern people, right? They believe in the drugs and the surgery and the tests and all that stuff and all this modern knowledge that we got. But the modern knowledge hasn't really helped our health. You can just look at the statistics of disease increasing, especially in America and in any country that follows that. Now, I say that nutrition isn't taken very seriously because in the radiation business, we are the sandbox of the health world. We are taken not even seriously by the nutrition world, right? So the nutrition world isn't taken seriously by the medical world. The radiation or the energy world is not taken seriously by basically anyone. But if you go to a health show, a health event of some kind, a convention or an expo, even a little farmer's market or something in a church, it's mostly energy people that you'll find there. It's mostly alternative people in general, right? That's where you're going to find people promoting supplements and diets and anything to do with energy, not even just radiation, but we're talking about Reiki. You know, you want to go get a picture of your aura taken, you go to a health convention. And medical doctors don't usually show up to those things. The medical world in general doesn't really do that sort of outreach. They don't try and connect with the public directly. Probably many reasons for that, but doing shows for many years, you hardly ever see a real medical doctor there unless they've left the mainstream world. The only medical doctors, MDs, or anesthesiologists, or anything you want to name that has a formal university degree in a mainstream medical science, the only ones that are at these shows are ones who have gone away from the mainstream medical model. They're there now to tell you something that's wrong about the medical model, right? They're there speaking out against, maybe they left Health Canada or the FDA, and they're there giving a talk telling you why they left the FDA, that sort of thing. So you have to branch out from the mainstream before you can even go to one of these public events, basically. Now, the whole reason I said that is because most of these health conventions and shows that you go to, they're going to be loaded up with energy people. Again, the Reiki, acupuncture is still considered part of the energy. They're dealing with energy fields in your body, that sort of thing. Acupressure, even massage, all kinds of things. But it's all in the energy category. Now, in my experience in this business, and we'll explain why this is a problem. This is just the introduction here. In my experience in this business and being both in the nutrition business and in the radiation business, which again are separate, and I can't hold my arms out wide enough here on camera to show you how separate they are. They're different worlds. They're completely different worlds. There's very little overlap. There's very little people in both of these worlds who respect the other, right? So even the energy people, half of them believe, most of them believe that you can get everything you need from food. Right? They're against supplements. They're all natural, and they think anything man-made in a laboratory or by a company, anything like that, they're like, that's not natural, that's not good. So there's a huge gaping chasm here, but I happily am in the middle. Very fortunate for that. And I'm saying this because in both of these businesses, the most amazing things I've seen are in the energy field. The fastest things I've seen are in the energy field. Nutrition takes a while. It takes a while for nutritional problems to show up, usually. It takes time for things to degenerate, and it also takes time to regenerate tissues nutritionally. It takes time to regrow a knee. It takes time to heal oxidative damage in an eye. Some things are still fairly miraculously quickly. I've seen plenty of people get off dialysis in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That's close to a miracle, but it's not measured in minutes like radiation is, or anti-radiation is. The only exception to this is salt. Salt can act very quickly. I've seen salt perform miracles in minutes, but you're not going to change your entire overall life just by doing the salt. It's usually if it's just a stomach problem or nausea, someone's in the midst of nausea, maybe they're in the midst of a panic attack, a glass of salty water can be a miracle, and it can be measured in minutes. But with radiation, and we'll explain all this, with radiation, I've seen lives changed in minutes. And every time I bring this up, the things we've seen are so dramatic that we're often called liars just for talking about it. We've seen people stand out of wheelchairs, not complete paraplegics, but they were wheelchair bound and they were able to stand up within minutes. We've seen people walk in with crutches, walk out on their own 2 feet. We've seen people shaking with Parkinson's and all this stuff. Nutritionally, it would take time to rebuild the nervous system where they stop shaking. We've seen people stop shaking in seconds, right? Just by dropping a device into their hand. Half the time they don't even realize it. We got to tell them, hey, look at your hand, it's not shaking anymore, right? And even if you asked us in the nutrition business, we would say, oh, this is a nutritional deficiency. You got to fill in the deficiencies. You got to get off the bad foods. That's all well and good. But I've seen things that are completely nutritional, according to us, according to the textbooks. They're completely nutritional, but yet they got their result fast with radiation. So that's the introduction. I'm going to give you a second here, and then we can actually explain why that's the case.
All right. Thank you so much. That was intense, and then that was loaded at the same time. And I'm hoping that as the discussion proceed, you will be able to break it down even more simpler. Anyway, the first time I took interest in electromagnetism, radiation, and its correlation or relation to health was during the whole pandemic. So I started picking up books, looking into books and whatnot. And then I was looking at certain research where we have about 300 doctors coming together to carry out some research on the danger of the 5G to health. So while I was looking through the research, someone recommended the book by Arthur Fistenberg, Invisible Rainbow. So and then while I pick up the book and start reading it, oh, awesome. So when I pick up the book and I start reading it, Fistenberg seemed to imply that the introduction of electricity was somehow the factor for some of the diseases that did not exist prior to the introduction of electricity. And then he made some lists, the cancers, even our modern understanding of diabetes compared to what it used to be. And then the book was mind blowing. And matter of fact, reading that book was the first time I came in. I saw the Rose Newton experiment during the so-called Spanish flu and whatnot, and then that blew my mind. So I took interest in electromagnetism and then how it affects our health. So since we're discussing EMF today, I would just want for you to, what exactly is EMF and what is it that we need to know about EMF?
Well, EMF is anything that's electromagnetic frequency. I mean, in a sense, we are EMF. I mean, the world gives out frequencies itself. The Earth has its own frequencies, Schumann resonance, and we absorb electrons through our feet, through our tissues and everything. So we are, in a very real sense, we're electrical beings. Many of the essential nutrients themselves are called electrolytes. Those are all the water-soluble nutrients. They conduct electricity. If we have electrolyte deficiencies, we could have a heart arrhythmia. You could have many diseases, since every essential nutrient causes a disease if it's deficient. But here we're talking about salts, we're talking about all the B vitamins, we're talking about vitamin C. Those three groups, those are critical for our daily functioning, our daily metabolism. And one of the B vitamins, thiamine, actually causes congestive heart failure if you're deficient in it. So your heart is an electrical thing, right? So this is why arrhythmias can be caused by these electrolyte deficiencies. And thiamine, one of those electrolytes, can actually cause your heart to fail. And there's other reasons for heart failure. There's other nutrient deficiencies, other types of heart attacks, but that's a separate conversation that we mostly had last time. The other electrolytes, the other electrical nutrients are things we've all heard of, bigger minerals, potassium, calcium, magnesium, these are all essential nutrients. But my point is that half of them, maybe more than half of them actually, if I look through each one of the minerals, are electrolytes. The other half are fat soluble. They're soluble in fat, or lipophilic. The fatty nutrients, basically. They're very important, but they're very different. The electrical, water soluble, hydrophilic, they call it, water loving nutrients. Those are what we need for our general daily conductivity, and our typically, the water-soluble nutrients, you will see a problem faster in their deficiency. Like I was saying with salt deficiency it's huge, and you can change someone's life very quickly by giving them a glass of salt water, we do this every day. It's partially because of the conductivity, I do believe. I see people with chronic fatigue all the time, and I would connect this to blood sugar as well. It can get a bit complicated, but chronic fatigue, I would put it more so in the radiation category, in the category of electrolyte deficiency and being affected by radiation. All these things go together. What we do in this business is we practice health, right? We're trying to teach people to get healthy. And I would like to say that I would wish that it was as easy as just eating all the food groups or eating all the colors of the rainbow, right? I totally wish it was that easy. I wouldn't even be in this business. This is not an easy business, by the way. We deal with sick people. We deal with dying people. Right? We're dealing with death and disease. It sucks in a way. And this business beats people up. People who try to practice this. People who try to help people through nutritional information or electronic radiation information. It can be so hard on people because everybody's sick, everybody needs this information, but yet everybody's been taught by their doctor, just eat the 4 food groups or whatever, just take these pills, and it's so hard to get them on board with this. And most of the people who are in this business are very empathetic, they're very caring, and that can eat them alive. This business can eat them alive. It's not an easy business. So I say this because I wish it was easy. I wish we didn't have to supplement. I started this when I was dirt poor. Supplements were a big deal. They cost a significant portion of a budget that I barely had. So, it would be great if we lived in a world where we didn't need to supplement. And it would be even better if we lived in a world where this radiation problem did not exist. Because it's kind of easy for us to explain the deficiencies and say, okay, we'll just take this product. Fills in the deficiencies. Very simple. But that's not all there is to it. We've got this huge elephant in the room, this invisible rainbow problem. And this problem is not going away. It's getting bigger and bigger. And in my 7 years in the business, this has gotten even worse. Products are getting better. Our nutritional science is getting better. Not just in our company, and other companies are catching up as well. They're learning how to make better supplements with better overall results. But some people, there's a growing group of people who are having a harder and harder time getting results via food changes and supplements. And again, if you talk to Dr. Wallach, who trained me, he's mostly only going to talk about food and supplements. On our page, Wallach's Warriors, we mostly only talk about food and supplements. It's really hard to bring EMF into the conversation, and it's especially hard because with the deficiency thing, you can just supplement. I mean, literally, if you're low on nutrients, you can just supplement. It's not a big deal. People get hung up on things, citric acid, and, is this type of B12 better than this type? To us, none of that really matters. You just load in the nutrients and the problem should go away. It usually does. It's not easy to tell people that EMF is killing them or that EMF is stopping them from fundamentally functioning properly. And we should get into the history of this. I mean, you asked just what is EMF, but EMF is anything that's giving off a signal, anything that's giving off an electronic signal that is not the natural frequencies of the earth or of plants or of your human body. Anything extragenous, anything from the outside that's not those frequencies is a problem. If you talk to mainstream medical people, most of them will say, EMF doesn't even exist unless they can measure it through heat, right? Heat is the main thing they're looking at. Heat is not the only effect of it. Now, let me say, before really jumping into this, the invisible rainbow does detail the history of radiation and stuff I did not even know. I've been in this business a long time. I did not even know, that batteries were a problem. I didn't even know that they were measuring problems in people on their first exposure to very mild currents back in the early days where they were just experimenting with these things. And now, if you could see a problem back then, this is a big book, by the way. If anybody, you got to read this book. This is like top recommendation. But they could measure a problem back when it was just a single new frequency added into the human body. We have many, many, many more problems now. Not just the amplitude, not just the magnitude. There's more of it. It's more powerful. We also have a lot of what they call dirty electricity, which is conflicting frequencies. Remember, we could measure a problem with one frequency. And, a lot of the early experiments were doing that. They were just introducing specific frequencies and seeing what happened, or, touch this battery and see what happens. Well, we have a grid that doesn't just create electricity and deliver it. It doesn't. Things go back into the grid as well. And a problem with this is you've got all these different types of devices. Even in one house, you probably have a 110 volt outlet and a 220 volt outlet. It's a big and a small outlet. All of this stuff is going to be feeding back into the grid to some degree. And I know people in businesses actually that have technology that's aimed to clean the electricity, especially in industrial manufacturing, because it can actually save them a lot of money, because they're not having to deal with dirty electricity going through their systems and screwing up their machines is kind of the main point of it, that the machines work better when they only deal with one frequency that's going in, the frequency that they're designed to run off. But when you plug things into the wall outlet now, you got a whole bunch of conflicting frequencies going through it, and it actually messes up equipment, especially heavy equipment. And when if it saves a few years on a piece of equipment, it's worth the money to install this machine, and yada yada. And they sell that for your house as well. Actually, there's many devices out there that you plug in to your own house, so it stops dirty electricity, or it straightens out the frequencies into only one frequency when it goes into your machine. Now, finally, I'm going to stop in a second and let you jump in again, but he details the Arthur Furstenberg, sorry, it's not an English name, Arthur Furstenberg. He goes into the history of EMF. Now, the one thing that we have to consider, because he's not a medical practitioner. I have a lot of respect for him and his research. I love this book. I recommend it all the time. But what's left out of the story is that in the Industrial Revolution, when these frequencies were becoming a problem, at the exact same time, nutrient deficiencies were becoming a massive problem as well. So we've got overlap here. There is a correlation both between the introduction of electricity and the introduction of new health problems. You mentioned diabetes. I'm going to call diabetes metabolic syndrome. We didn't really have a metabolic problem before. It started in the age of industrialization, but that's also when nutrient deficiencies became a huge, huge problem. Talked about that last time, damming the rivers, stopping the irrigation. Once you have electricity, you no longer use wood ashes, which are a major source of plant-derived minerals for natural people. We're not really using bones anymore because we're eating industrialized food. So these problems go hand in hand. These problems have grown at the exact same time. But nutrient deficiencies, basically, they've been at an all-time low for a while. You know, our soils in America and Canada, they've been low for a long time. We've been relying on industrial pesticides and fertilizers for a long time. So that's not new. Nutrient deficiency has not gotten, it hasn't fallen off a cliff, basically. We were already off the cliff. We're already at an all-time low with that. Some places have more minerals in their soil, like Australia has much more relative to what's left in the American and Canadian farmlands. But it's not, it hasn't gone from, you know, this much of a problem to this much of a problem, which is what EMF has done. EMF, it has grown steadily as the world has become electrified, but with the introduction of these new things, like you mentioned 5G, but it was even, you know, 3G, 4G, like problems going up like this, you know, it's just really, really rocketing up, where again, nutrient deficiencies are basically the same that they were 50 years ago. We've been dealing with the same nutritional deficiency problems, but this is the variable that keeps getting cranked up. This is the variable that keeps getting changed. Is the increase in radiation, not just in the overall environment, not just the overall amplitude, not just the overall magnitude, but in our daily homes, in our daily lives, and the phones that we keep in our pocket. And I've said enough on that. I'm going to let you jump in because we can expand on this a lot and what to do about it.
All right, amazing. Since you mentioned it, okay, that was going to be my next question then. I like to think there have been researches, heavy researches around the dangers of keeping your cell phone in your pocket. And then it's been linked to low sperm and perhaps infertility, right? So is there a correlation between low sperm and, you know, what are the dangers of having your phone that close to your body? Because according to some of the researchers, what they were saying was that the research surrounding this cell phone does not allow for us to, does not include or contain for us to bring the phone so close to ourselves. We're supposed to have it some meters away from ourselves while using it. But as you know, most people have often carry their phones in their pocket. Okay, and then there have been studies that link that to low sperm and then whatnot. So what I'm just trying to ask is, what are the dangers of carrying your phone, your cell phone, in your pocket?
Oh, well, the funny thing is you don't really need scientific studies. If you read the insert on your own phone, it doesn't matter what phone you have, they're trying to cover their butts for liability, right? Companies aren't dumb. Telecommunications companies know what they're doing. They know the dangers, and they've put it in the insert not to put the phone to your head. I don't care what phone you have. It probably tells you in the insert, or even if you can look into the settings, and it will tell you, not recommended to put this to your head. So they know it's a danger. And that's only going by heat, by the way. I mean, we're talking about long-term studies. Let me address that in a second. But, if they see a heat problem, they basically connect that to a health problem. And it sounds silly. What does heat have to do with it? There's more to it, but it's one of the only things that you can directly measure that's accepted by the scientific community. So we've known this. And when your phone manufacturer sells the same phone in Europe or Japan and some other countries, those places have asked their market to protect them, and we haven't. We haven't done that. Exact same phone sold in Europe is probably going to have an extra plate, an extra little bit of protection, so that the signals that it's giving off is not going in every direction. It's a very simple strategy to reduce what's going in, because your phone is giving out, again, it's giving out signals in every direction. And these days, it's not just giving out one signal, the signal that's for self-service, right? That's one signal. It's also giving out a signal looking for data, unless you have your data turned off. And it's also giving out a Bluetooth signal, unless you have your Bluetooth turned off. So it's got 3 signals, and they're going out in all directions. The problem here is exponential. It means any distance that you have between yourself and your devices is exponentially better than having it closer to you. Right, so the individual numbers don't matter that much. 1 inch away from you is exponentially better than right beside you. A foot away is even better. I don't know if you noticed at the start of this, I thought to myself, I could move my tripod back just a little bit more. Just a little bit. I just moved it half a foot back, less 6 inches back, and I feel just a little bit more protected. And you notice I got my headphones plugged in here. Last time my phone died, I had to plug in to the wall, and I probably will have to do that this time as well. But I don't want to. I want to put that off as much as possible, because now there's even more of a problem when it's plugged in and you're using it when it's plugged in. So I never ever use the phone when it's plugged in to the wall. I let it charge, let it do its thing. I have it on airplane mode 100% of the time, by the way. I don't pay a phone bill. It's one of the things that I recommend doing. I'm just writing down here. I wanted to get back to another point. So one of the things I recommend doing is canceling your phone bill. We'll get to the political aspect of this, but the main reason, I do it is so I don't pay a phone bill. I don't like paying a phone bill. I'm cheap. I don't want to support a business that sucks, an industry that sucks. Telecom, they're not helping us at all, in my opinion. I pay for internet at my house, which comes in on a cable internet. Don't pay for any wireless internet. I do use Wi-Fi, but when I'm doing the main part of my day, which is sitting down and doing the messages, it takes me 2, 3, 4 hours to do the messages daily. I actually plug it into an Ethernet adapter. So airplane mode's on all the time. When I'm actually using it for the bulk of my time, I can't do that right now because the cord doesn't reach that far, but the only time I'm going to be sitting here holding my phone on Wi-Fi doing this is if we're doing a live, or I'm doing the story questions, or I have to hold it in my hand, and I got to be in this. It's quiet in here. That's why I do it in here. But if I'm doing the messages, it's plugged into the wall. It means airplane mode's on, Wi-Fi is turned off, Bluetooth is always turned off. I don't have any Bluetooth devices, and data is always turned off because I don't pay a phone bill. So there's no cell phone service and there's no data service. And my life is a little bit better because of it, but it doesn't fully erase the problem. This just, since we said that the problem is exponentially worse when it's close to you, that means the sources that are close to me, I want to completely minimize as much as possible. It means I never want my phone giving out any sort of signal if it doesn't have to. And I like having it turned off and just plugged into the Ethernet. It does reduce it significantly. I mentioned that thing about the plate being in Europe, right? So the plate will be in the front here, and that's blocking the signal from going just right into your head, right? It's going out in all the other directions still. It's still not good. But again, manufacturers know this, and certain populations have asked for this. It's been a market demand. And in my opinion, the market will respond to our demands. What I wanted to say here is that's what I wrote down. When I'm asked to give a real life presentation, one of my slides on my little slideshow is why research sucks. And I'm talking about human research. One of the main problems is lack of controls. Right, so in animal research, it's much better because we've standardized animal nutrition. So when you're studying an animal and you're studying whether something affects it or not, we already give them basically perfect nutrition, more or less perfect nutrition. They're getting all of their essential nutrients. We know the lab rat's not going to get diabetes unless we do something weird to it. We know it's not going to get full-blown cancer unless we do something to it. A rat or a mouse, they will have tumors when they get 2, 3 years old. It's normal. They don't have a long lifespan, but they're not going to die of the deficiency disease earlier unless we mess with their nutrition. It's standardized. Those are controls, right? We have adequate controls in animals. We have no controls in humans. And this is part of the problem. You're asking about sperm count. Well, I don't trust any research on human beings because there's no control group. And there can't be a control group, by the way. Even morally, we couldn't do it because you need to raise a group of children. So what we do with lab animals, we raise batches of these animals, generation by generation, right? We've had like 50 generations of controlled mice. We know exactly what's up with these mice. We've even bred certain mice to be more susceptible to cancer and more susceptible to tumors and more susceptible to diabetes, but they're controlled. It's adequately controlled. Again, we couldn't do this with humans. We need babies bred from birth for the purpose of experimentation, because humans have free will, at least in the sense where we could choose things. And these people would have to be in prison, like animals. Lab animals are in prison. Their forefathers were in prison, right? They've been in prison for 50 generations. We've been raised exactly as we want. Their birth and their death are both controlled by us. Their nutrition is 100% controlled. They do not get the choice of smoking and drinking and taking pharmaceuticals. They don't get any of these choices, right? So there's too many variables when it comes to human beings. And when you're looking at sperm count has already been going down. And if we're talking about nutrition, we can link that to a number of different factors, a number of different variables that are just not controlled. And again, at the same time that radiation is going up, sperm count is going down, but at that same time, we're taking random advice. Basically, some people avoid cholesterol. Cholesterol is responsible for the sex hormones. Some people avoid salt. You need salt to digest food and absorb minerals, right? Some people are alcoholics. Some people take 10 pharmaceutical drugs. This happens all the time. So there's no control group, and that's the point. Whenever you look at human studies, you have to take them with a grain of salt. But if a human study does show a result, it's even more impressive because of all these variables that are not controlled. So a lot of times they will, like we talk about 90 essential nutrients. They'll usually test only like 1, 2, or 3 nutrients at a time, like selenium and vitamin E. So we're recommending up to 1,000 micrograms of selenium per day. They'll usually only test about 100, maybe 400 if it's a very, very serious study. And that's a good amount. 400 is a good amount. But my point here is if you can see a result, and we do, if you can see a result with 100 milligrams of selenium and a little bit of vitamin E, that's fantastic because they're not even including the other 88 essential nutrients. And those people are going to be eating all kinds of random things, right? If you look at data studying like a fat intake or meat intake, to me, all this is garbage because fat is not fat, right? What are they eating? Taco Bell? There's fat in Taco Bell, and there's also fat in beautifully organic raised chicken eggs. Fat is not fat, right? Cholesterol is not just cholesterol, right? So when they measure total cholesterol, it just means nothing to me. These people eat more fat than these people. What kind of fat? What kind of food do they eat? What are the other factors that are going on here as well? Same with meat. Meat is not just meat. There's 2 meats on our bad list. Well-done red meat, included any burnt animal fat is in that group, and processed meat. So when they say meat contributes to cancer, what kind of meat contributes to cancer? In our view, it's burned meat, or well-done red meat, burned animal fat, and processed meat. Those are bad, but when they use this to say you should go plant-based or something like this, we're saying, hey, this research sucks. That's the point of it. You asked about sperm count. The research sucks. But what we know is that sperm count is going down. And this is why it puts me in a weird position in my part of the business, because I would love to just give you one answer. It's the lack of cholesterol. I would just love that answer. That would be so easy. Hey guys, the sex hormones are based on cholesterol. All you got to do is eat more cholesterol. My life would be super freaking easy at that point. But nope, that's only one part of it. And then there's other nutrient cofactors, and then there's EMF. Let me explain this, and I'm going to give the mic back to you. All the stuff we talked about last time about nutrients and why there was more nutrients in the food before and why processed food can mess us up and all this stuff. All of that only matters if it is digested, it's put into the system, it's put into the stomach, it goes into the intestine, and it's absorbed into the blood. The blood is the main parameter here. If the blood is messed up, the nutrition does not matter. This is the key. This is the key to understanding radiation. And there's a lot of technicalities that you can get this. In my opinion, it gets just a little bit too complicated. The easy way to understand it is that blood vessels start out big as arteries from the heart. They're all veins, but they're called different things if they're different sizes. Big veins are called arteries, and it goes down to blood vessels and capillaries and different sizes. Every cell in the body, every living cell in the body is in contact with a vein. It's something that still blows my mind to this day, that this whole vascular system that we have literally branches out smaller and smaller and smaller to literally touch and feed every individual cell. It's an amazing highway system that we have for transporting nutrients into the cell, transporting oxygen. It's one of the more important of the 90 essential nutrients, transporting oxygen into the cell, transporting sugar into the cell to feed cells. Cells eat sugar. Our body takes proteins, fats, and carbs, and it turns it into glucose to feed the cells because cells eat glucose. And it also needs to get waste out. It's a two-way system. The blood needs to feed the cells because everything starts at the cell, right? If there's a cellular problem, there's going to be a problem in a bigger system. That's why we don't consider breast cancer to be a breast problem. It's a cell problem. It's a cellular problem. The problem is at the cellular level. There's going to be a lack of nutrients. There's going to be some toxicity or something. There's lack of circulation. Something is contributing to a cellular problem. So veins all feed the cells. That's what the body does. It takes nutrients from the environment, from the food, whether it's supplement or food, doesn't matter. The whole explanation of why we have less nutrients, that matters. But if the blood cells, the cells that actually transport the nutrients to the other cells of the body, whether it's a liver cell or a finger cell or an eye cell or a brain cell, whatever, that's transported by blood cells. The primary problem with EMF is that it impacts the blood cells themselves. It impacts the blood themselves. So if the blood is it's supposed to be like a lazy river. You sit on an inner tube at the theme park and it takes you around this lazy river. These tubes, they don't crumple up. They're not on top of each other. They're not deflated. They're all inflated properly, and they all move nicely. And if they bump into each other, right, one hits one, and it bumps off. It doesn't stick to it. They don't stick together. They don't stack on top of each other. They don't crumple up, right? You're safe in your inner tube, in your lazy river. You can hit the guy in front of you, no problem. It's just going to keep bumping along. It's going to keep moving forward. That's what the lazy river does. And our blood system is supposed to be a lazy river, but it's not. There's other things that can impact the blood as well, but EMF is going to be the biggest one these days. Everybody is affected by EMF to some degree. Some people are much more sensitive than others. I'm very sensitive, but I'm not in the most sensitive group. But I know that my blood is impacted very quickly by this as well. We can see this by live blood analysis, by the way. This is one reason we don't really need fancy research, because live blood analysis can be done by amateurs. You can take a 2-day course. You can buy a live blood machine yourself and probably learn how to use it just on YouTube or just by reading the owner's manual of it. You can learn how to do live blood analysis, and you can see the impact that several things will have on your blood right away. And EMF is going to be one of those huge, huge, huge ones. So the more sensitive you are, the more of a problem this is. And this is why, I say that the whole nutrition thing, if you're putting nutrients into a body and it does get absorbed into the blood, let's assume it does get absorbed, there's no digestion problem or anything like that. You're taking all 90 essential nutrients and even more. It's making its way into the blood. But the blood vessels are not a lazy river. They're crumpled up. They're mashed together. They're deflated. They're deformed. They're not doing their job properly. And the job of the blood is to deliver the nutrients to the cells. Therefore, you're going to have a cellular problem. This is why EMF is the problem, because it impacts the blood and it negates all the other things. And I'm in the supplement business. I hate this. I hate having to say this. I hate that this is true. People in the business don't like me talking about this. But I know we have a harder and harder time with a growing group of people because they're in this heavy EMF environment that's only getting worse. and their blood is impacted. And then we could sell them the best supplements in the world. We can brag all we want about having the best supplements in the world. It's not going to matter if their blood is impacted by their daily EMF. And it's a cold, hard fact that I wish was not true. But we are going to talk about 3 ways to reduce this impact. And the fourth thing here, I might as well just put it on the table. The fourth thing is political. Because I mentioned if you have a nutrient deficiency, you can literally just buy supplements. That's not a big deal, right? But if you're being impacted by radiation, what can you do about it? Well, you can do 3 things, but they're limited. They're limited. The problem in this is societal. The problem is environmental. The problem is outside your house, right? The problem's on the street. Right here, we have a cell phone tower way too close to us. Way too close. What can I do about it? I have to move. That sucks, right? For me to give information to people, I want to be able to help them right away. And sometimes it really sucks when they're like, hey, can you tell me if this is a problem? They show me a picture outside of their window, and there's a high voltage power line next door, right? They live next to a high voltage power yard. Or they live next to a step-down station, or they live next to a cell phone tower, or they live above a subway line, subway train underground. Huge, huge electrical sources. And unfortunately, the advice is, you got to move. And on the bigger scale, we have to be politically involved in this, because the problem's not going to go away unless we do something about it. Telecom is not going to stop. You know, they want 5G transmitters everywhere, which we can talk about if you like. But this is only the 5G. It's only an additional problem, right? 4G was a problem. 3G was a problem. Power lines getting higher and higher voltage is a continuing problem. Some of this stuff is easy. You can throw away your Bluetooth devices, but you can't just throw away the cell phone tower across the street. Right? This is a political thing that as a society we need to recognize, and it's not going to go away tomorrow no matter what. Right? We need serious engineering effort here. We need serious market demand here, and we need serious political action. I'm done the rant for a second. You can take the mic back.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. By the way, thank you guys for joining. For those of you who are just joining, one reason we have this type of conversation is so we can learn and then, help decrease the impact or even eliminate the impact of some of the things that we are exposed to that are unhealthy for us. And also, one thing Ryan tries as much as possible to do is to tell you how to help yourself without needing to end up in the hospitals. And some of these things you can really do for yourself. They are simple things, but we are really ignorant of some of them. And the others, you can reach out to Ryan, go to Ryan's DM if you need additional help. Now, during the course of this discussion, we've touched on some important things, like you can pick up the book by Arthur Fistenberg. The title of the book is Invisible Rainbow. Great book, and I think Ryan agrees with that too. Ryan also gave us a pretty useful information on how you can conduct your live blood analysis by yourself without even having to go to the hospital. I would try as much as possible to share for more information on that. And like he clearly said, you can look that up on YouTube as well. Another information that I think might be new to some of you is the fact that even right there in your phone, all right, right there in your phone, you can pick up any of your phone. It is clearly stated there that you're not supposed to keep your phone close to you. Okay, but when you buy your phone from the store, nobody tells you that. Then you pick the phone, carry it next to you, and then it causes some problems. And one of the things that I've noticed is because this problem builds up over time, people don't think the problem exists. Some of these problems accumulate and then over time. So people don't know that these problems exist. But they exist, and I think we should start paying closer attention to some of these problems. So let me go back to the Leyden jar experiments. All right. Following the Leyden jar experiments, Europe went crazy with their admiration for electricity. People in hundreds were submitting themselves to different type of electric shock experiments, and then all over the United Kingdom, the France, just name it. Now, during this time, there's this form of, I'm trying to ask what your take is when we talk about electrotherapy. Electrotherapy, by definition, is how people treat some neurological diseases using electricity. Okay, so do you think that was, what is your take on electrotherapy? Let's start that way. What is your take on electrotherapy?
This is very interesting, truthfully. And one of the things that Arthur brought up in the book is that there is actually, there seems to be a measurable benefit to being electrified. I know we just talked about how bad it is, but people are living longer. And I do not attribute that to modern medicine at all. And it's definitely not because of better nutrition, right? But in the modern world, we have acclimatized to electrification slightly, and there are certain electrical therapies that do help. They at least help in the acute sense. Now, again, it's very difficult to parse out exactly what's happening because at the same time, this is the same era that nutrient deficiencies have become a very, very serious problem. It's the same era that pharmaceuticals have become a very big problem. And, you know, forcing electricity through our system under certain frequencies, especially if the frequencies are controlled, does seem to open up our electrical pathways, probably in the very similar sense to acupuncture. So some of them have been shown to be effective. Are they going to completely eliminate the problem forever? No, I don't think so. And much of that was done way back, like you're talking about Leyden jars. These are early batteries, basically. You know, this is a long time ago. And the modern environment has changed very, very much. And we also brought up already the point that the frequencies that we're being exposed to are not consistent. You're not being exposed to this one therapeutic frequency. You're being exposed to just a bombardment of big waves, small waves, all messed up waves, all coming at you all at the same time from every direction. So that's a massive problem. There's basically zero chance this is not going to be affecting us biologically. But you mentioned the accumulative problem, and that is one problem, right? It's sort of like the frog being boiled; it doesn't notice until it's dead. Well, there's a lot of people who will be like, well, I've been eating gluten my whole life and I never saw a problem. Well,
Yes.
eventually it's going to catch up, is just kind of the point. Eventually it is going to catch up. Same with the electricity, right? Well, I've been around electricity my whole life. You got to look a little bit deeper. The book Invisible Rainbow does actually go into it, right? There's a lot of like radio operators that are like, well, I never had a problem. But you look closely and you're like, well, actually, proportionally, the people who work on EMF in radar and radio and all this stuff, they do have a higher incidence of headaches and migraines and chronic pain and, you know, all this stuff. Whether they will be consciously aware of it or not is a different story. A lot of us have become normalized to things that we call health problems, right? People think that getting a headache is normal. People think that having heart palpitations is relatively normal, or, you know, now diabetes is normal. You know, a third of the American population has either diabetes or pre-diabetes. So this is normalized. It's considered normal. It's easy for us to ignore things when they're normal, and it's easy for us to ignore things when it has become a cumulative problem, right? People are like, well, I never noticed this before. Thing is, they're not going to notice anything unless you're at 100%. So if we've been living in this environment forever, it's extremely hard to notice the difference. And it's usually only when people put extra effort into paying attention to it, finding the sources of why they're not sleeping or whatever it is, until they finally realize, oh, sleeping with my head next to the wall outlet was preventing me from sleeping. Sleeping with my phone next to me was preventing me from sleeping. I know your question was only about therapy, and the truth is, I don't know the full effects of it, because we're going to always lack those controls. Can it help short term? Pharmaceutical drugs can help short term, right?
No time true.
Pretty much any pharmaceutical drug, even though it'll kill you long term, and it could kill you short term, it still can save your life short term as well. And it could very well be the same with electromagnetic therapy of many different forms. But we believe that we shouldn't need medicine, and this falls into the category of a medicine. You know, even a therapy, we shouldn't need it all the time. I love chiropractors and acupuncture and colon hydrotherapy and these sorts of things. But the fact is, we should be aiming to live in a world where these things are not necessary. We shouldn't need these things. You know, they should be there in cases of emergencies. You fall out of a tree or get hit by a car, chiropractor can really help. Pharmaceutical medicine can really help. Painkillers and surgery, emergency surgery, all these things. If you do have an acute problem, I have to kind of stop myself here, but if you do have an acute problem, there probably is some electrical-based therapies that are going to help a lot. But the reason I'm stopping myself is because I don't really think any of them are necessary. And I don't know any practitioners who actually do that with great success. I've met a few who use like Rife machines and stuff like this. And my main problem, I'll tell you my main problem with any therapy-based thing is that it only works for the time that you're doing the therapy, maybe a little bit afterwards. You know, I know people who do Reiki, I know people who do frequency therapy in the form of singing bowls and tuning forks, and I've even done them. I try and be a guinea pig for a lot of these things. You know, I'll go and do it, I'll go and try it, see how it feels. And honestly, doing the sound therapy and tuning fork therapy feels incredible. I can't even describe it. It feels so good. But it's only working during the time that I'm there, right? A few minutes after I leave, you know, maybe some of those vibes stay with you for a little while, but it's done once I walk out into the real world. And now I'm being re-exposed to all these, the bombardment of radiation. Me being a sensitive person, I can hardly stand even being in the cities, you know, so it's like I go from being in heaven doing the sound therapy, walking outside, I'm in hell again, you know, just like that, a couple minutes later. And so I don't like things that you have to go to a therapist, pay them. Again, I mentioned I'm cheap. I don't want to pay a therapist, you know, over and over again. I don't want to pay a chiropractor over and over again, even though it helps, feels good at that time. Shouldn't need a chiropractor. Shouldn't need a radiation therapist. Shouldn't need an electrotherapist. And there's very few of them, by the way. I know in the book it detailed how it got popular, very popular, especially in the 1800s, early 1900s, but it's not popular anymore. You know, the pharmaceutical drugs took over basically, but even in the alternative health world these days, most of it is not based on using an actual machine to put frequencies in you or anything like that. Let me mention one thing here though. There's a thing called the Clark Zapper, Hulda Clark. It's a woman who invented this machine that puts specific frequencies into your body. Now, she's the laughing stock in the health world in general, because she went too far with her claims. She titled her book, The Cure for All Diseases, and she died of cancer, which is just not a good look at all, right? So she said, this machine is the cure for all diseases, but she mistakenly attributed cancer to a pathogen, right? So the machine was designed, and you can buy them, by the way. She made her plans public, so you can make your own if you have any skill at all with soldering, you know, a very simple circuit board. It's not a complicated machine. I know people who have made them, and you can buy them for like $100. Other people that have made them. It's called a Clark Zapper. Clark, just like it's spelled, Clark Zapper, and it delivers specific frequencies to eliminate any pathogen. Basically, she mapped every pathogen that you could name. There's more out there, but like hundreds and hundreds of them, and they all have this frequency that is known to kill them. So, and this is from Petri dish and stuff. Like, we know if we deliver this frequency to this E. coli or worm or whatever it is, boom, it kills it. And I do know people who have used it to kill worms and other pathogens in their body. It's very cheap. But again, this is a therapy that we really shouldn't need. And I know I gave you both a yes and a no answer because it's not certain. I don't really know. But the Clark Zapper to me has been impressive. It's impressive because of its cost and its simplicity. And it's doing what we talked about originally. It's delivering individual, specific frequencies. And it's killing something specific. It's killing parasites of some kind, basically. There are other ways to kill parasites. You can use medicines, whether they're natural or pharmaceutical. It works. We have things that kill parasites. We know that we can stay clean and nourished, and we're going to have a lot less of an overall problem with parasites. But that is something that the natural human is still going to encounter. We're still going to encounter worms and viruses and bacteria. I know a bunch of the health world and you guys in the audience are full-blown on terrain theory these days, but there really are microbes out there, and they really can cause a problem. And by the way, I don't mean to plug my own book here, but I did write about this in Fake Diseases. I wrote about my experience with with certain pathogens that I know 100% fact are not terrain theory. And I also wrote the story of how I got into the radiation business and some of the amazing things that I've seen, and going through some of the stuff that we talked about here and stuff that we won't have time for here today, like structured water and such. And it's worth, hearing that story out in detail. But I'm going to stop myself now because I answered your question. But the Clark Zapper does give me the most confidence that, yes, applying specific frequencies short term, right? These are it's like you hold the paddles and it's like you do this for 7 minutes, 3 times a day, you do this for 2 weeks or whatever, just like taking antibiotics, you do it for 2 weeks or you do it for 14 days or 10 days. You do it for this specific thing for the specified time, and it does do the thing that it's said to do. And the Clark Zapper does that, and I assume those old frequency therapies did that as well. But let's just bring the analogy just a little bit further. The mass of conflicting frequencies that we're exposed to now, all the time, 24/7 from every direction, and in increasing magnitude and amplitude, this is basically like taking every antibiotic on the market at once, right? You've got a bacterial infection, you take every single antibiotic available. It's not good, right? That when you do it specifically targeted for a certain amount of time as a therapy, it can kill the thing, it can eliminate the problem. Take them all at once, it's probably going to kill you.
All right. We're just approaching 1 hour mark right now. Matter of fact, we're just like 1 hour mark. I was going to ask you a different question. Matter of fact, I was going to ask you the relationship between EMF and epigenetics, if there is any, right? Now, but you raised something interesting, which is pathogen. Talking about pathogenicity, which of the theory do you subscribe to? Germ theory of disease or terrain theory of disease? I just want to get your where you stand.
Both.
Both. Okay.
I subscribe to both. When we've weakened our system through chronic nutrient deficiencies, chronically eating foods that are just messing up our system all the time, and you add into that fact chronic exposure to the multitude of frequencies, we are weak. When we are weak, we invite pathogens. A lot of people will actually link to things like hardcore diseases like cancer. A lot of people are out there saying that you basically have to have a bacterial or candida problem, fungus problem underlying it. And I've done enough hair analysis on people that I know that basically everybody who's walking around out there on the street has some form of parasite in them. I've only seen 2 human beings in my life, 2 human beings who got a hair analysis and did not show a parasite of some kind in them. It's probably more than that out there. Many people have sent me hair analysis, and I don't always look 100% at them. Like, I don't look in complete detail because I don't care that much. I can just ask them general questions, and I can see, do they have a digestion problem? Do they have a blood sugar problem? Do they have a calcium deficiency problem or something like that? I don't need to see the hair analysis. Definitely don't need to see the blood analysis. But the hair analysis that I've done in my own life, I've only seen 2 human beings who did not have a parasite. I was one of them. And then after that, I did pick up a parasite. So, it's a huge, huge, huge problem. Terrain theory, the reason I believe that terrain theory is only half of it is because there are sicknesses that you can get. I know that people have drank, the diphtheria bacteria on stage and not gotten diphtheria. I know that people have injected HIV into them and not gotten HIV. So there's more to it. And when it comes to the H viruses, I don't even believe those are diseases. Those are included, our whole chapter, there's a fake disease, in my opinion. But there are things that are more straightforward. I also told the story in here of how I was in the tropics in Costa Rica, living there, when what they call Zika hit. They called it Zika. But everybody called it dengue when I was there because all of them, dengue is like chickenpox out there. Most people will get it once. So most people in these places, these are far away, these are dirt road places, but pretty much everybody knows what dengue feels like because they get it once in their life. It's miserable for, a week, 2 weeks, something like that, and then they move on with their life. But everybody got it at once. This is why, to me, it was not terrain theory. When that happened, it was not terrain theory. Some of us got over it faster than others. Younger people, we were on our 90 essential nutrients, right? My little group, we got over it. We set the records. We only had, even my friend Aaron was the fastest one. He was 4 days, I believe. 4 days of symptoms. Nobody in the village got out that quickly. I was over a week. It was 10 days of misery or something like that. The older people in the village took longer. But to me, this is one example where terrain theory does not explain everything. Terrain theory does explain our increasing susceptibility to infection. Absolutely it does. If we have weakened immune system, because immune system is the last stage here, you have nutrient deficiencies, food problems, EMF, all this stuff adds up to a weak immune system. So if we have a weak immune system, absolutely we're more susceptible to infection. And it's even more true that we have E. coli in our bodies. A healthy human being has E. coli in their body. It's kept in check by a healthy microbiome. If you have good probiotics, you've got healthy, strong colonies of probiotics, good bacteria, in viruses, in protozoa, little animals, little micro animals. If you've got a healthy microbiome, they keep the E. coli in check. They keep the fungus in check. They keep the candida in check, right? So yes, if we're unhealthy, we're going to have a weaker immune system. We're going to be more susceptible to bacterial problems, virus problems. Lots of people mention that you have to be alkaline in life, right? Alkaline is going to protect you from cancer. And they say cancer can't survive in an alkaline environment. I believe that. I totally do. Eat more sugar, it contributes to more acidity. More sugar feeds the bad bacteria. And all this stuff. But calcium also is one of the major factors here. We don't really like to pick out individual nutrients as much as possible, but calcium is the alkalizing factor in nature. This is the reason that we will never see ocean acidification. I mentioned that I worked at the Ocean Technology Group in the geophysics department. We knew this. We argued with all the basically liberal scientists that were saying, this is very much in fashion to say that climate change is going to ruin everything. There's huge problems with the ocean, but it's not going to get acidified because the ocean is lined with calcium, limestone, and that's the buffer. It's the buffer. When you see experiment, I know I'm going a little bit off topic here, but when you see, this also speaks to problems with experimentation in general. I was very disturbed to see people in my own laboratories conducting experiments that were showing ocean acidification killing fish or starfish or whatever organisms they were treating. But I'm in the lab. I'm looking at the lab. I'm looking at their experiments. I'm saying, you have these creatures in a fish tank. There's no limestone in the fish tank. What's going on here? And you just added hydrochloric acid. You got to read these studies deeply. How did you acidify ocean acidification is going to kill everything. How did you acidify this water? And when you really you translate it, you put it in English, what the study really tells you is, hey, we added hydrochloric acid to the water and the organisms died, or the organisms got sick. And me thinking, duh, that's what's going to happen if you add hydrochloric acid to your little fish tank here. It's going to kill your organisms, or it's going to make them unhealthy. Anyway, so calcium is the buffer, and it's the same in our body. Calcification problems, we've all heard of pineal gland calcification, kidney stones, heel spurs, bunions. These are calcification problems. They are due to calcium deficiency. They're due to calcium deficiency. Calcium deficiency is one of the most rampant deficiency problems that we have. Last time we went into great detail on how natural people got more calcium in their environment. Irrigation, wood ash, bones. These are all major sources of calcium for the natural people that we don't do anymore. When we have enough calcium, we are buffered against acidity. This is the point. Buffered against acidity. And if there's any most important product that we have, it's our calcium product. It's the one that got me out of pain, right? Bones, joints, muscles, gums. The ability for your body to not be calcified is all due to calcification. So I had a muscle problem. I told this last time. I grew up with a muscle problem, grew up with bone problems, skeleton problems. And all of my pain was gone in less than a week with proper calcium. And so this is, has a huge impact on our overall health, is whether we are alkaline or not. And it's not true that you could just eat fruits and vegetables and become alkaline. It's not true. We require adequate mineral intake. So I know it was a simple question, but it's not a simple answer. Is it terrain theory or is it germ theory? It's neither and it's both. Germs are out there, right? The whole dengue thing that I was talking about. We all caught dengue at once. We started dropping like flies. The whole village, the 100 people in the village, all of them. I don't think there was anybody who didn't get it. How is that terrain theory? It's not. Nothing changed in the village. I promise, nothing changed. It came, it hit us. I don't know if it was manufactured in a lab or whatever. I don't know. Who knows? There's lots of theories. But I know that it was not terrain theory that we experienced there. And, I've become sick from a flea as well. I told that story briefly in there as well. Woke up and I was bleeding from everywhere. I thought I was going to die. Antibiotics saved my life extremely quickly. That had nothing to do with terrain theory. I caught a bug from a bug. It hurt me. It was before I knew about the 90 essential nutrients. It was before I was alkaline, but I was definitely susceptible to it. So the weaker we are, the more unhealthy we are on a general sense, the more susceptible we are to infections and all kinds of things. And like I said, from my experience with hair analysis and just dealing with people, I assume that almost everybody out there has some sort of chronic parasite problem, some sort of chronic candida fungus problem, something. Too much bad bacteria, not enough good bacteria, and ultimately they will be extremely susceptible to any infection.
Wow, that was loaded. By the way, how are we doing on time?
We have time. I wanted to keep this into an hour, but
Okay.
we haven't gotten to the main ways to protect yourself, which I'd like to cover. I do want to post this later, and it's immoral to say all this and then not tell you how to protect yourself, in my opinion.
All right then. So, how much time do you think we have? Because I'm also trying to give opportunity to the audience to be able to come on and ask you a question. So I'm trying to see how we go.
Okay, well, let me just rip into this then. Let me just get this out of the way, because when we started this, those are the only things I had written down. We got to talk about these 3 things that you can do to protect yourself.
All
Now,
right.
I already made a video on this. It's a half-an-hour video. It's on my YouTube, which is The Real Notice, Notus, The Real Notice. You
Oh,
can find that link through my link. My link in bio, by the way, takes you to noticebooks.org. You can always find all of my links that are there, including my YouTube. But I made this video called 3 Ways to Protect Yourself from EMF because this comes up all the time. And these are actually 3 categories of things that we need to do, that you can do. We already talked about one of them, is that the fact that the closer these things are to you, the worse they are, in the simplest sense. The closer they are, the worse they are. So increasing your distance is the first category. Reducing or minimizing exposure. That's the number 1 thing that you can do. I do recommend canceling your phone plan, both for the fact of reducing your exposure and as a political statement to the telecom industry saying, we don't want this. We do not want data. I know people think it's convenient, but none of us grew up with data. Kelly, you did not grow up with data. I didn't grow up with data. We don't need data. We've been drunk on this internet all the time. And, there's so many social critics out there that are like, come on, guys, let's live life again. We don't need to be on the phone at the dinner table. We don't need to be on the phone at the bus. Bring a freaking book to work. I commuted for years. I just download the audiobooks ahead of time. It's a little bit less convenient, sure. I go into this again, on more than one video. I've ranted about this on numerous occasions, that you can live without a phone bill, and it's not that big of a deal. You like audiobooks? Me too. Download them. You like music? Me too. Bring your iPod with you, right? I like my iPod. Way less radiation. Old, classic iPod. No, there's no Wi-Fi signal. There's no Bluetooth signal. It's still an electronic device, but it's nowhere near having a phone in my pocket. It's another thing. Phone's never in my pocket. There's maybe 5 minutes a year where for some reason I don't have my silver lined case on me or something. 5 minutes a year that the phone is on my body. A year, right? So people are doing this 12 hours a day sometimes, keeping the phone on their hip, keeping the phone in their breast pocket, coming to me about heart palpitations or breast cancer. Where do you keep your phone? Don't keep it on your body. If you must keep it on your body, use a silver lined case. Because you can buy a cheap one from Amazon or AliExpress, $5 case. It doesn't matter. Anything that's metal, this is the next category, block things. Anything that's metal will block EMF to some degree, whether it's tinfoil, right? Tinfoil hat.
mm-hmm.
Tinfoil hat would work. But these days there are companies that make silver-lined clothing. Spiro Gear is my favorite. Spiro Gear, Spero Gear. They're here on Instagram. There are others. I don't mean to offend any of the other companies. I have some relationships with some of these companies, but I don't have an affiliate link or anything like that. I run the cell phone tower account, Transcend Towers, so You know, a bunch of them have sent me samples and stuff, and I've recorded content with Spiro gear and so on and so on. It's the equivalent of a tinfoil hat, but more fashionable, more expensive too, by the way, but a lot more fashionable than just wearing a metal poncho or something, right? Everybody knows when you've gone and got your x-ray done at the dentist, they put this big lead jacket on you, right? To shield you from the radiation. So tinfoil is the cheapest way to do it. I'm not suggesting cover your entire house in tinfoil, but I put tinfoil on the wall behind my smart meter, right? We haven't gotten the smart meter taken off of our house yet. It annoys the heck out of me, but I put tinfoil, 4 or 5 layers of it, right behind that, and then I put a bookshelf in front of that so I don't have to see the tinfoil. But the point is I can sit in front of that and it's not going to harm me. I don't feel it at all. So you can block major sources. Now your computer, where you sit with your computer is going to give out radiation. Or you can put some tinfoil on that part of the desk. And tinfoil, again, is the cheapest one. I've tried to give the cheapest advice that I can all the time. But you could use things like baking sheets. Put a baking sheet, and you could use an EMF meter, by the way. If you don't have an EMF meter, you don't necessarily have to buy one. I've been criticized for this. Why are you telling people not to buy it? Well, most people usually buy an EMF meter. They go around their house once, they figure out where the sources of EMF are, and they don't really use the EMF meter again. A good EMF meter is like $350. You don't need to spend that money if you're just going to do it once. You could call your local fire department, probably they'll send someone over for free. Call them, say, hey, could you send a firefighter over on some, if you got spare time, can you send a firefighter over with an EMF meter and just help me out for 10 minutes, walk around my house with me, help me find any sources? They probably will. They're good people, very likely. They probably have the best meter on the market. They'll come by, check your house out, and it might be that one corner of the house over there. What's going on in that one corner? I don't know. It's good coming through from the road or something. I don't know. Maybe there's a cell phone tower in that direction. Don't know. Maybe there's a satellite dish or I don't know. Transmitter of some kind. But you can use a meter and you can find it. And there probably is only a few sources of your house coming in through the wall, and you can block that with foil, with baking sheets, or with EMF protecting paint, which has metal in it. That's the most expensive version, but it's the most aesthetically pleasing version as well. But anything, yeah, you can get a metal tarp, you know, if you really wanted to, and just block that one spot. Maybe it's in the roof. You can go up in the attic and put metal there, extra layer of insulation as well. But find the sources that are big in your house, block those. The first one is reduce or minimize your exposure. Don't keep the phone on you ever. Basically, that's the main advice. If you have to bring it with you, turning it off doesn't even help that much, by the way. It's going to be a whole other thing. But it maintains the energy if you turn it off. Just keep that in mind. You want to put it in some kind of a case. If you don't have some kind of a case, put it in some kind of metal. Put a metal slip in your pocket. Do something, right? So that it's not directly contacting your body. Keep it out of the hand as much as possible. I love my Ethernet adapter, plugging it in, allowing me to use my phone during the day. But we need to make market demands on this as well. We'll get to that. You can block and shield things. We've kind of already gotten to that. That includes blocking the major sources, refrigerators, you know, again, something from outside, cell phone tower. If you live next to a cell phone tower or a high voltage power line or a subway station or a transfer station, my opinion is that nothing will truly mitigate that. Sucks for me to say that, but you got to move. Again, we have one that's way too close. We have to move. It's a huge priority in our lives. We have to move to get away from it. I live in a very tiny town, my actual house. I live in a very, very tiny town. There's still cell phone towers there. I want to get actually further outside of town because we're in the town. I want to get out of the town so we're away from that even more. But I can sleep very peacefully up there. It's much less overall. There is already an exodus out of the cities, right? You mentioned that you started to get into this, Kelly, in 2020. Well, a lot of people realized they didn't need to go to their jobs anymore. A lot of people started doing remote work. So, hey, you probably don't need to be in the city anymore. Good chance you don't. Real estate prices are up. Maybe you want to sell your house and buy a house that's 5 times bigger and nicer in the country where it's going to have less radiation overall. It's going to be great. So you can minimize your exposure. You can learn further about that. You can watch those other videos. You can shield things that are strong in your life. You can use devices. This is the last major category of 3 things that you can do to protect yourself. I do sell devices. It's impossible for me to not plug them and pitch them because these things that we sell, these frequency tuning discs, they are they're the cheapest thing. They're the most effective thing at this price point. Let me put it that way. It's not the strongest device in the entire world, but for the $40 that we sell them for, they are absolutely the most effective. When I say that I've seen the most incredible things I've ever seen in the health business from anti-radiation, it's because of these. It's because of these. It wasn't just taking a cell phone off of somebody's pocket, but we can show them the different, we do demonstrations where we can show somebody how the cell phone makes them weaker in real time. Like, hey, let's test your strength and balance with your cell phone on you. Super weak. Take it off, they're stronger. Add the disc with the cell phone back on them. We show them that this strengthens them even with the cell phone in their pocket. Before everyone had a cell phone in their pockets, in this business, they do these demonstrations with a TV, by the way. They'd get you to stand next to a TV just for a few minutes, and the static electricity of that would make you weak. So we do sell these. I put in a pretty extraordinary effort to make sure that these are sold online. These are not patented. There's other products that are patented. I got this one here. We sell this one. This costs 3 times more, I think. 3 times more. And it's a pendant. You wear it on your neck. These, we sell them on bracelets, so that they're on 24/7. That's the key, right? If you're going to have protection, you want it 24/7. I mentioned I don't like the therapies as much, even though they feel amazing, but I have to pay the $100 or $200 or $400 to do the therapy, and then I leave the therapy, and I'm no longer protected, right? So for $40 freaking dollars, and you can just have one. I know we sell bracelets with 2 of them on it, and I personally wear at least 4 all the time. But these are collectible, by the way, right? And for $40, there actually is no better deal than that. And some of my friends even, they didn't want me to sell this. They're like, you know what? It's not patented, and you look like a quack, is what they told me, you know? But I was in this business. I saw the most amazing things I've ever seen. I've seen amazing things with nutrition. I totally have. I've seen amazing transformations. I've seen tumors go away. I've seen people lose 200 pounds. Yeah. But it takes time, commitment, it takes ongoing money as well, because you have to keep buying the supplements, because one dose is going to do nothing, right? Take the product until you get your solution and then stop taking the product, you're going to get the problem again, right? Because we need nutrients all the time. The good thing about these devices, not just these, but any radiation device, is they're collectible. That's why I own 6 of them, you know? I got crystals, I got these EP2 pendants. We also sell these, by the way, you know, but again, this is more expensive, it's patented, and this is a pendant, and it's big, it's bulky. It's not huge, but it's pretty big. It's bigger than a little brass washer with just energy put into it, by the way. These are the same things, basically. This material brass, it's just a brass washer, and this material moonstone, they both hold the frequencies really well. I have another one in my pocket here that's amber, that costs way more money. It costs $350. $350 for this thing. It's way more money, but it's the same principle. It's charged with frequencies, and these compounds hold the frequencies in a really stable way. I call these devices, these are not electrical devices, right? They're not plugged in. These are stones with energy put into them, and the other one's a brass washer with energy put into them. But those are stable. They're stable materials, and so the frequency remains stable. And I mentioned that this might not be the most powerful thing in the world, but this is what we have the experience with. We sell these in working class cities, you know, blue collar cities, like I mentioned last time. This is where we operate. We operate with the everyman, and the everyman's not going to spend $350 on a rock that they have to keep in their pocket. And this is huge, right? You can't really wear this all the time. You can't sleep with this comfortably. You can't even sleep with this comfortably. Even though I do wear this throughout the day, I don't sleep with it. These, you can wear them all the time. You can wear them in the shower. We have construction people that work with them and all this stuff. So it's not going to, unless you break it, you know, you're probably not going to lose it. Some people attach them to their belt. To us, it doesn't matter. And let me mention one of the most amazing things about these devices, this class of device, this type of device, which is a material with energy put into it, is that it's not conductive. It is not working on a conductive basis, because the demonstration works through a rubber sole shoe, number one, but it works through a steel toe construction boot, just the same as it does on your pocket. We see no difference at all. So it's not conducting through your feet or whatever, because we could just put the disc on the ground and get you to stand on it and do the demonstration. It's not conducting through the shoe. It is, the way we explain it is it's connecting with your aura, and it's enhancing your aura. These all have different frequencies put into them, by the way. This one has the discs has the frequencies of your skeletal system, your muscular system, and your nervous system. And the theory is that this enhances those systems. Again, this is something that shouldn't be necessary. We should just be at our full aura all the time. We should just be at our full strength all the time. We should our own power should be as strong as it can be all the time. The thing that's knocking us down is these chronic nutrient deficiencies, lack of oxygen, which is something we don't have time for right now, and the impact of EMF all the time. So we are too weak to thrive, basically. And this seems to open up our blood, like we were talking about the blood vessels. This opens up the blood enough where people can stand out of wheelchairs in 15 minutes. Again, people stop shaking. Some things, we've even got people on camera, like lupus patients, cancer patients, who those problems are nutritional. In my books, in my explanation, in my training, those are nutritional problems. But they relieved most of their symptoms. They have to change their diet to see full results. But they relieve most of their symptoms just by adding a freaking disc, which is amazing. This is why I say the most amazing things I've ever seen in this business is in the device category, and it's the frequency tuning disc category as well, because it's the cheapest one. It's the one that we sell the most of. It's the one that we've done with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And so many people are walking around out there wearing these things that really probably still don't even believe it. But they say, you know what, I don't have my arthritis pain or whatever. Whatever it is, I don't shake anymore, whatever. But let me just emphasize that if you are very sensitive like I am, none of these things are going to completely mitigate the problem. But more of them, the merrier, right? I wear these things, I collect them. At this point, I've bought all the devices that I know of that I think can help me. I might try one more. I think it's called the Blue Shield. People have been saying good things about that. And I know I'm going on here, but again, what do you do to protect yourself? You minimize exposure, you shield the major sources, and you have to get some sort of devices, unless you're way out there in the middle of the woods, which I assume you're not watching this at that point, right? So if you want to go out, move out to the woods, maybe, but I would still wear my devices out there, The last category of devices that are important are things that pump out frequencies into the atmosphere. I have a Schumann generator at my house. There's mixed opinions on this. Even in our, the energy people that I know, they say, it's not a good idea to put your own artificial frequencies into the air. Mixed opinions, but it's out there. You can try them, might help. I feel my Schumann generator a little bit. I'm going to try the Blue Shield thing because it's the same basic concept. It's pumping frequencies out into the atmosphere. And I'll mention one more thing, salt lamps. Mainstream medical world says that's bogus. Salt lamps are bogus, whatever. We talked a little bit last time about negative ions, right? The bad radiation are called positive ions. The good ones are called negative ions. And being at a beach or, just in the water, anywhere near the ocean, this is where the atmosphere is loaded with negative ions. No wonder that people feel good there, right? It's totally not a surprise that people feel good at the beach, especially they usually have their shoes off. So you're connected now with it. You're getting these negative ions absorbing through your skin. Trees, dirt, forests, mountains, these things all are very high negative ion environments, and they're good for us. And salt lamps are one of those easy things. That's a cheap thing. Again, these are collectible, right? I got my wife into salt lamps, and now she's got salt lamps in every single room. We got 2 on each side, and then these other ones that hold candles too on top of that. When these are on, when there's a light pumping through them or heat pumping through them, they are releasing negative ions into the atmosphere. And that's just one more thing to enhance our general environment that should, in theory, protect us against EMF, because those negative ions should neutralize some of the positive ions. I'm almost done here. Again, the last thing I already mentioned is political. We just have to be politically involved in this on some level. And I mentioned even not having the phone bill. I don't really expect telecom to listen to me. I don't expect them to notice even that I don't pay my phone bill anymore. What do they care? It's not even going to show up on their radar. But it allows me to have this conversation with new people that I meet. They ask me for my phone number. I'll say, I don't have a phone number. I do have a text app, by the way. You can make phone calls without a phone bill. I can make phone bills. I can make phone calls if I choose. I do make phone calls. Right now we're talking. This is, telecommunication. That's what this is. Just not doing it through a phone bill. And it allows you to actually talk with people in your life about it. People might not know about this. People probably don't know about this. People don't know about nutrient deficiencies either. You know, most of them don't know about gluten and processed meat and whatever, but they probably definitely don't know about EMF. So it's just one more thing to create the conversation. You know, what do you mean? You know, why don't you have a phone bill? Well, I think it improves my health a little bit and it lowers my life's bills a little bit too at the same time. What do you mean it improves your? What do you mean cell phones are bad for us? Didn't they say that back in the 90s? You got to have this conversation, right? We have to spread this information one way or another because it's not going to go away. Some of you guys might have real political pull in this world, right? Some of you guys might have real influence in this world. Kelly, I know you got at least 5,000 people who listen to you. We're at 10,000 or so. This matters. It matters. Your voice matters. Your purchases matter, right? You can vote with your dollar in a sense, but the vote, in my opinion, is not going to go that far unless you tell people about it. If you live next to a huge source, you got to move. If you're in an apartment building that has cell phone towers on the roof, you got to move. And I recommend telling them, telling the landlord, telling the management company when you leave, say, look, the main reason that I left, because, hey, I like this location. I like this price. I like my loft or whatever. I like all that, but you put cell phone towers on the roof, and I don't feel that it's good for me. I feel that it's bad for me. They might not know. Cell phone tower companies pay very good money to landlords, churches,
Same here.
all this. They get paid really good money to host these towers. In a lot of cases, like self-storage facilities. I don't know if that's a big thing out there in Africa, but oh man, here in America and Canada, there's a self-storage unit literally every block. And most of these self-storage units also have a cell phone tower on them. Why? Because they're leasing that part of the property to the cell phone tower. And they're probably making more money off the cell phone tower than they are off the actual business, right? If you see a coffee shop or a church with cell phone towers on the roof, the church is probably making more money from the cell phone towers than they are from the congregation. So if you have a problem with this, you need to let them know, because right now it's a good deal for them. It's a good deal for the landlord to do this. If no one's complaining about it, why would they stop doing it? But tell them, hey, I'm moving, and the primary reason I'm moving is because of the cell phone towers on the roof. Hey, pastor, the reason I'm leaving this church is because there's cell phone towers in the steeple. And you know, you might not have known. Don't assume that they did this because they're bad people. They didn't know, right? But hey, pastor, I'm going to a different church because there's cell phone towers on the roof. And I'm dead serious about this. And if you want me back, take the cell phone towers down. Give me a call. I'll come back. I love this congregation. I know I don't want to leave. Tell them that. If you your favorite business has cell phone towers there, say, hey, look, I love your coffee shop. I love your coffee shop. I love this haircutting place or whatever. But you rent a place with cell phone towers on the roof, and I can't come here anymore. So sorry. Give me a call if you move, right? Make some sort of political statement. I don't know if writing to your political representative is going to do anything, but it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot making noise about it. It's worth a shot sharing there's lots of doctors now. Like you talked about a few of them, you know, and this book is full of them. There's lots of videos on YouTube of real doctors who are speaking out against this. Share it. Share it on Facebook. Hey guys, I don't know what you think about this, but man, I've been learning about frequencies and I think this might have something to do with my health problems. What do you think? Right? Just share it. Just get this information out there. I know I'm ranting a little bit here, but again, the problem's not going to go away unless we do something politically. And that's my final thought on that for this exact moment. We're at an hour and a half. We got a little tiny bit of time for some questions.
Thank you so much, Ryan. So much more to talk about, but I think that would happen in our next sit down. Hopefully, we can have another sit down next week or even this weekend, depending on what we work out. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, guys, I'll just give you the opportunity to come on and ask questions relating to the topic. So let's see what we have here. Who we have here.
Someone's saying the landlords don't care. They'll find a new tenant. Hey, it's true. It might be. Well, the least you can do is tell them, though. It's just something easy. If you're already going to move, I do recommend moving. You know, if you work in a place with a cell phone tower or something, you know, by the way, schools, hospitals, airports, these are huge EMF environments. People in the military, you know, you're wearing a radio here and your headset here and you're in a vehicle with tons of radiation. These are mega high EMF things. Like you might want to move. You might want to leave that career. You might want to work somewhere safer. And the landlord might not care, but there's no harm in telling them. Maybe they don't care. You know? but still, maybe they never heard this before. Don't assume that they don't care, by the way. I don't think all landlords are bad people. A lot of them don't care at all. That's true. A lot of them don't even live in the country, but they might care.
Hi, Divine. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm at work.
Oh, okay, so what's your question? Go ahead.
Is the question only about the EMF stuff?
No, just ask your question. What question do you have?
Okay, I have a question. So I have gastritis, an ulcer, thyroid problem. Do you think that has to do with the parasites?
Ulcer it could be H. pylori, but I would start with, like you mentioned, gastro, whether it's gastroparesis or GERD, it doesn't matter. I would start with the salt flush. DM me personally, by the way, or Wallach's Warriors if you already follow them, but you can DM me personally. I'll just give you the salt flush. And if it's just drinking a really salty glass of water, but also the very first line is do this immediately and tell me what happened, because that could just literally solve the problem. I've seen GERD fixed in minutes. I've seen gastroparesis fixed in minutes. There's other possibilities, but let's rule out stomach acid first. And that's basically free. Put $1 of salt worth in a glass of water and drink it, basically. 3 heaping tablespoons.
I did that the other day, and it didn't really do anything, and I just tried it just now.
How much of it could you drink the first time?
It was just a bottle of water with salt in it. And this time I did more salt.
Were you able to drink the entire thing?
Yeah.
Okay, you need to keep doing it. That means you're extraordinarily low. And this is one of the things I'm looking for when we say, get back to us. If someone's like, hey, I can only take a few sips, okay, well, the salt's not the big problem. If you could drink the entire thing, you are in a very small minority of people who are catastrophically low on salt. So the instructions on the salt flush is to do it again. If you can drink either half or the whole thing, do it again. You want to keep doing it every couple of days until you can only drink just a few sips. So if you just did it again today, you said?
Yeah, just a little while ago.
And you could drink less? Or you didn't use the same amount of salt?
I used more salt and I drank the whole thing.
Okay, yeah. You're catastrophically low. Keep doing it.
Yeah, I'm doing the Himalayan salt.
Doesn't matter, any type of salt. It even works with table salt, even though that's not the best thing in the world. But yeah, if you could do that twice, yeah, you're absolutely catastrophically low. So it's probably a couple of weeks that, probably doing it every couple of days. You should use the same amount of salt, by the way, so you can gauge. If you use the 3 tablespoons each time, it's very easy to tell that you could drink less. But yeah, if you're drinking the entire thing, that means you never fully topped it up. I wouldn't advise you to do more than that on that same day, because you can throw up at that point. But if you drink another bottle of it, of 3 tablespoons, that's like a salt shaker worth, right? And that's a lot. It's a lot. Not supposed to be able to take that much. So it's a good thing that you're doing right now. You're topping up. The other question that I would have is, you're not on a proton pump inhibitor drug, are you?
No.
Okay, good. You're not on a drug that lowers stomach acid?
No.
Because that's usually the prescription. If you go to a doctor with GERD or gastroparesis, they usually give that to you.
For me.
Okay.
They tried to give it to me before, but it didn't work.
Okay. Well, the good news. The good news then, because if you were on it, then you're in for a miserable few weeks, but you're not on it. So keep doing the salt flush every couple of days. Feel free to contact me and keep me updated on that. But you will know that by the time that you can only drink a little bit of it, you're topped up and your life should be different at that point. Obviously, there's other things for full and total health, but for this one specific thing, you got to top that up, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Divine, for coming on. See if we can take 1 or 2 more questions, and then we're done. We can make it brief and then touch on it during our next sit down. So someone is asking, I'm collecting more data on orgonite, but I have a couple testimonials and use it for geoengineering.
Okay, cool. So how do I answer this? They do this with cloud busting. They call it cloud busting with orgonite. I have orgonite too, by the way. I like orgonite, and with my cell phone tower account, people have sent me all kinds of orgonite. I got orgonite all over my house. I got orgonite in my wallet. I got tower busters. I got earth pipes. I got all this stuff. People who don't know what orgonite is, it's basically half crystals, half resin. They call it half organic, half inorganic. There's more to it. I know this guy knows what he's doing with it too. I believe I know that account. I believe they know what they're doing with it. You could even charge those things with energy, just like our frequency tuning discs. Here's the problem I have with it. Not the problem. Here's just, people are saying that it's the orgonite doing the thing. They're saying that it's the orgonite doing the cloud busting. I know, because I've done it, and I know many people who have done it, you can cloud bust with your mind. This is next level here. You know, we're just talking about physical stuff. All this stuff we talked about today is physical. It's not metaphysical, right? Frequencies impact our blood. That is physical. That's easily evident. You can see it. People are on camera, you know, waving the orgonite to the clouds and cloud busting it. My opinion is it's not the orgonite doing it. It is you doing it. It is your mind doing it. Because I've done it with my mind. I lived out there in the desert next to China Lake Naval Base, by the way, in Trona, California, right outside of Death Valley, an area that is very, very, very heavily sprayed all the time, but it has these big, huge open skies where I could stand out there in the desert and I could play with this. And I could try it with orgonite and I could try it without orgonite. And I could do it with my mind. And many people can do it with their mind. Doesn't mean I'm a psychic, doesn't mean you're a psychic. It means that this world is based on frequencies, and I believe that, you know, we are intimately connected with that. I believe that our mind exists outside of our body, by the way, right? I believe that this is only a semi-physical experience that we have here. And I just finished a book, actually, by Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief. And at the very end of it, in the epilogue, he goes into some cases where people had their minds basically turned into mush. Their brain was turned into mush, but they were still able to remember, you know, live, like they had their whole frontal cortex destroyed, but they were still able to function correctly because the mind does not exist solely in the brain. Just like you can remove the nucleus from a cell and the cell still functions, because the intelligence of nature does not only exist within the physical body. I know we're going off the deep end here for some people. Some people are going to be like, what just happened here? What are we talking about? The mind does not only exist in our physical body. We are in a two-way, at least two-way relationship with the world. You know, we project our image of the world outwards, and it comes to us from the inside, from the outside as well. Much like the cell membrane communicates with its environment in order to determine what happens in the cell. So we can actually alter reality, is the point of it. And when we can bust clouds, someone says, the same person saying, humans are the biggest orgone generator. Exactly. This is the point. There are some people who learn to harness their own power. Some people just call this spirituality, right? Just spirituality. You can harness your own power, and this power can allow you to overcome problems in the environment too. Food and nutrition is very, very important, but there are so many people who have conquered their health problems with the mind alone that I know for a fact it is not all physical. There are people who have just thought their way out of cancer, believed their way out of cancer, this kind of stuff. They just harness their own internal powers, and we are incredibly powerful. We are the orgone generators. And yes, we can bust clouds with our own mind. Now, if you need a wand, so I'm calling it a wand, orgonite, if you need a wand to believe that you have the power, that might be the thing that changes it for you. But you can also believe that you have the power without the orgonite in your hand, or without the crystal in your hand, or without the magic wand. You don't need the wand. You are the wand, in my opinion.
Okay. I think that would do it. So let's sit down, Ryan. Any closing word before I let you go?
Closing words is keep looking into it, keep spreading the information. That is the most important thing. You know, once you understand this, you will see it everywhere. Once you start paying attention to this, you will feel it, very likely. You can learn to feel it. You know, we talked earlier, like, well, how am I supposed to feel it? I've been living in this my whole life. I lived in it my whole life too, but when I started paying attention to it, now I could really feel it, right? Now I could pinpoint it. Now I could be like, oh, wow, when the refrigerator compressor is going, when it's on, I feel bad. You know, I didn't notice it before, but the more attention you pay to it, the better you can get with this. And yeah, this is a good time. Someone's asking about H. pylori, by the way. I just posted a video about this on the Wallach's Warriors YouTube. Again, all of my links are on the link in my bio. If you go to my bio link, it's noticebooks.org. There's links there. You can watch that video. You can also message me. Anyone can message me anytime. I will get back to you. And I'll give you a list of questions. We'll go through it. We'll talk about your health problem. We do that completely for free, no problem. But yeah, keep learning about the EMF. It can change your world. A lot of people are failing to get their health result by any means necessary. They just can't do it. Why? Probably radiation. It's probably EMF. You probably need to address that. We mentioned the invisible rainbow. Very quickly, I'll plug another book. It's not my book. It's called Zapped by Anne Louise Gittleman. It's one of my favorites because it's more of a practical manual on what to actually do. Talked about this in other videos on my YouTube channel and so on and so on. And I did talk about this in my book, Fake Diseases, as well. But those two books for radiation are my favorites that I've come across so far. The Invisible Rainbow for actually telling the story, the huge story here. And Zapped is a much more reasonable book, much more of a handbook on how to identify and reduce the sources in your own life. And that's it. Learn about it, spread it, change your life and help others. And let's make this world less EMF. I think it'll be better for all of us.
Well, that was intense. Thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you everyone for joining. Keep a lookout, read books. I'm a big proponent of people trying as much as possible to read for themselves and then be able to start thinking, because when you start thinking, your approach to everything is different. Your mind is then controlled by yourself, not by some other people. So, and yes, the book by Otto Fisterberg is a must-have. I read the book and that was one of my best read. Read it and you would love it. The title of the book is Invincible Rainbow. Get the book and read it, you'll like it. See you another time. I'll keep you posted when next I'm having a sit down with Ryan, and I hope you all enjoyed this section. More discussion to be had. We still need to touch on the mud flood. Okay, I just want to see your take on the mud flood and your take on Tartary and whatnot. So many things I want us to touch on, even chronology itself. Because in one of Anatoly Fomenko's book, I think he was saying that Jesus was born in 11th century?
No, even closer to us.
Closer to us, that's what I'm saying.
14th, 16th century, something like that.
So Jesus was born around, so so these are some of the interesting things about reading. Keep your mind open. So thank you everyone for joining today. Ryan, greatly appreciated, my friend. And I'll see you next time.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate everybody else. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
And definitely check out my book, Fake Diseases. It covers all of the major topics that come up, like birth defects, blood sugar problems, bone and joint problems, cancer, autoimmune problems, and more. And it's on Amazon for just $9.99. I'm very excited to announce my newest book, Everything the Government Does is Bad for Us. And you can get the paperback on Amazon for just $9.99. And you can find the video read-along version or the audiobook on my website, noticebooks.org. Definitely get yourself a copy of Dr. Wallach's cookbook. This is basically a textbook teaching you everything you know about how to cook without the bad foods, particularly oil and gluten, and all of the other problematic things on the list. This is 300 pages stuffed full of recipes, every traditional recipe that you could think of, and modern dishes without the bad foods that they're usually made from. And all of my books, audiobooks, and links are available on my website, noticebooks.org. And of course, make sure to check out our food page, Notice Foods, that's on YouTube, and at Notice Foods on Instagram. We have a lot of content up there teaching you how to cook without the bad foods that Dr. Wallach describes, and Dr. Glidden's 12 bad foods, all of that, all of the rules that you need to know. And we have experienced chefs and bakers who will answer the questions in those inboxes. And if you want to see what is apparently my most controversial video that was banned from YouTube and BitChute, you can go to wagthedogtheory.com and view the whole uncensored version of the video. And I recommend downloading it if it is still there. And for more health information, make sure to check out our YouTube or our Instagram. And you can actually message us there on the Instagram account and we will respond to every message. And make sure to check out my channel for many other videos on a whole array of subjects. And my other channels are all in the description of this video.